ladies and gentlemen, for those of you coming to us again, I know it's been a minute, but it's time to get back in the hot seat. And my guest today is a very, very hungry creator. But for those of you who don't know who he is, if you would, sir, please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Branson Grant. I am the creator and executive concept designer of the Protector Saga, book now available on Amazon. And yeah, I'm great. Very glad to be here. Appreciate this.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm always intrigued when creators from different backgrounds really, really push to get noticed instead of, man, wouldn't it be great if ... happened.
Right.
Like what inspired this?
I'd say like about a few years ago, I was really averse into media and everything like that, as far as like animated and comics and different things like that growing up, especially. And I just kind of noticed that I just didn't have any heroes out there that I fully related to. So I started thinking about it and just really going through the process. Thinking about creating my own story and kind of pushing that forward. And at first it started out as a hobby. I was just, kind of making notes and stuff like that over time. But then as I continued the story, I really got into it. So I, started to say, like, I think I could probably really actually do this. I could push this forward myself. So I started writing and, taking it more into a serious consideration to do it. And the rest is kind of history. I've just been pushing it forward ever since I started after that.
Very cool. And what is sort of the origin of the Protector Saga?
As far as the story or the creation of the project?
Oh, we'll go step by step. First, creation of the project, and then lead into it.
Like I said before, it was kind of just I started out as a hobby, but then as the more I got into it, I started to go to different events. I wanted to kind of surround myself with the people who are in the industry, kind of seeing what it takes to, take a project from, a hobby to, an actual, something that's an event, something that, people can get behind and everything like that. So I started going to cons. I'd never really been to one before, and it was a great experience. I got to meet a lot of incredible people in the industry, people I never thought I would actually, meet physically in my entire life. It was just crazy that you could go somewhere and, meet so many influential people who have I've grown up with that had such a big impact in my life. So I think the biggest one was I went to MegaCon Orlando one year, and I got to meet Ethan Van Sciver, who was the artist on Flash and Green Lantern Rebirth. And currently, I was reading that run a little bit before I met him, and it was actually the reason I got back into comics. I had since dropped off. I really just wasn't feeling stories or really feeling like I wanted to read them anymore. So when I saw that, somebody had suggested to me, I picked it up and I started reading it, and I just fell in love with the story. The story was incredible, and it was just an amazing thing. And then Jeff Johns took over the main run with that. So I got to meet him, and I was telling him about my project and everything like that, and he gave me some great advice on it and everything. He told me, when I'm writing, I need to write from what I know and put myself in the work and, write from a perspective that, is me as the character, if that's who the character is supposed to be. And also give every character a voice. Every character should be important because the main character is not always the important character to everybody else. Just because I relate to the main character, there's other characters in the book that other people will resonate with. So once he said that, and after meeting him and everything like that, it was just an amazing experience. So I went back home and literally hit the ground running on the project. I started just writing from a whole different perspective. The story evolved much differently after that. Because I was doing that primarily when I first was writing it, like the main character was the only thing that was important, and every other character was kind of just speaking. They didn't really have personalities.
Yeah, very golden age, unfortunately.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So, and when I started, he also told me to, do a lot of social media pushes and everything like that. I needed to be on social media, which I wasn't doing at the time. So I took all of his advice, and I kind of put a lot of it into practice. And after that, when I started posting work, I started noticing more people, liking different characters, like you said. Like, it wasn't always just the main character. So I was just like, I got to make every character important. Like, every character needs to have a voice and have their own personality, and they need to be distinctive. Like, when they show up, you kind of know what to expect, like him to say or act or whatever the case may be.
So if Jimmy Blue Cap shows back up after 2 issues, there's a reason why Jimmy Blue Cap is there.
Right, yeah. Also, you know his mannerisms and things that he's going to, portray to that part of the story because you know the character. So that stuff like that was really important in writing. And then, like, since I've dropped the book, I've really got, like, those type of feedback from my fans. They've been like, oh, dude, your writing style is incredible. I love the way these characters sound. I love that they feel real. They feel like I can, like, really, like, get to know these people. And I was like, that they're hitting on everything that I wanted them to feel. So it was really great that it paid off in the end, and it's just been an amazing ride since the book dropped. Even before it came out, it was great, but then after, it was just like even higher because, like, literally since it's dropped, like, I've never hardly ever gone a day without fan art or somebody messaging me telling me how much it means that I wrote the project, and seeing somebody else, go from start to finish on something that they believe in doing and actually doing it, like, it pushes them to start their own thing. So, like, those are the things that have been, like, the most amazing part of this journey is the fans and, other creators and helping out other creators as well. This project has allowed me to do that as well. I've met such, like, a vast community of other independents, doing their own thing, and I've been checking into their projects. So that, some people, their stuff is so amazing and so incredible. It's great to have such an amazing community out there.
Excellent. You mentioned that you fell out of comics for a moment. What were you reading back in the day, or were you more a kid that grew up on the TV screen, like with, like, animated Spider-Man and things like that, or were there a couple of books you fell back on that were your go-to?
Yeah, back in the day, I was a big TV kid. Like, I would literally be rushing home to watch Power Rangers and Spider-Man the animated series, the X-Men the animated series, Batman, Superman, like all the Bruce Timm verse, basically anything that pretty much was on TV, I was pretty much watching.
The gateway drugs.
Comic-wise. Yeah, like, it was, yeah, they were my thing back then and everything. So I was, but then, like, I really wasn't reading comics at that time, which is funny enough, is I was just more into the shows, I think. And then somebody asked me the other day, like, what was my first comic that I really can remember reading. It was a Alpha Flight book. I think it was Alpha Flight number 1. And it had
underappreciated group.
Is that, yeah, and I say that all the time, like, full-heartedly I push them because I really do love Alpha Flight. Like, they are Vindicator and Puck and Sasquatch, like, they are, like, they're an amazing team. I love that team so much. But so that's the book I remember reading the most, because I just it's just something that just instantly grabs onto me. I just remember the cover with Spider-Man on it and, like, the whole team on it and big number 1. So, like, yeah, that's one of the books I remember reading. And I read a lot of Spider-Man, but I never got to read any runs. They were just, like, random issues that I could come across because I didn't have a comic shop in my neighborhood when I was a kid. So, like, I just could, whatever I could get my hands on, I just read, and that was pretty much it. But I say the shows had more influence just because they were more accessible to me. Later on, I was kind of just doing the same thing because, like, I didn't know a lot about comics as far as, like, where to start, where to finish. Do I go try to find a number 1 or whatever the case may be? So I was just kind of reading whatever I could, and it wasn't until Jeff Johns' run of Green Lantern that I got to sit down and, like, read a 1 through, like, to the entire end of his run on it. And it's actually probably one of the few comics that I've actually collected, like, all the way through.
Oh wow, that's incredible. So, like, you never came across the Milestone line growing up?
I read I got to see Statica show, which I loved, but no, like, and I feel like I missed out a lot because, like, I do more research now into different things and stuff like that. So like when I'm looking at like when these things were current, like Image Comics and Milestone and all that stuff, when all that stuff was going on, was like that's when I was in like elementary school. So it's like
Oh yeah.
I didn't get to grab onto that, part because like I didn't have a comic shop, I didn't have internet, there was like no, if it wasn't main thing coming to me, like I missed out on so much of that stuff. So I was just glad later on that I got to really dwell deep. Like Dwayne McDuffie is one of like my biggest heroes. I love that guy. He's incredible. I was deeply
Oh yeah.
sad.
Talk about a man of hustle.
Yeah, man. Like it's just, and it's so crazy that really the overall background of it, because he's so intelligent. Like he was so smart. He went to college at a super young age, and he was literally genius level. And he decided, I'm just gonna go write comics. Yeah, that's just what I want to do. Like it's kind of the same thing with Jim Lee. Like his family wanted him to be a doctor, and he just decided like, nah, like this is where I'm gonna go. But so it's crazy that people decided to give up, prominent jobs to, do something they really love. And, it ended up changing the world in a way that probably the other way wouldn't have had much of an impact, for them and the other people around them.
Yeah, but you can say that they don't regret it. I mean, let's flip the clock forward about 5 years. Let's say, hypothetically, the Protector Saga is known. Maybe not like Netflix or Amazon known to the masses, but like your name is in people's mouths when you walk into a comic shop anywhere. I'm saying like you're at a comic convention in Great Britain and you walk
Right.
in and some kid behind the counter knows your stuff, holds up his first copy, is like, Governor, would you mind an autograph, please? Love your work. I mean, would that stay with you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even now, I say it was crazy because I went to an event a couple of years ago, and I hadn't even dropped the book yet. Like I hadn't even let the book out yet, and I was wearing one of my shirts, with my character on it, and two guys stopped me, and they were like, "Aren't you Grant?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I was sitting there looking at it because I've never met them before, and they were like, "Oh, we love your work," and I'm just like, "How do you know my work?" And it's like, "We follow you on Instagram," and they started pulling up, pictures of posters that they made, and they started showing me some fan art they did, and like they took pictures. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" And they started just rambling on, asking me questions like, "So when's the book coming out? Or is it gonna have this character? Is this character gonna be featured? This is my favorite character. You got to show him." And it was just like, it was such a experience. And then like it was stuff like that just, it keeps me going forward. It keeps me wanting to do more and more stuff, because it's just when you see that and when you hear it, it's just people have invested so much in something, and they just want it to be successful, and it's like they want more of it. They need more of it, and they want you to keep pushing it forward. So it's just an amazing thing for me to have, because it's great. It's great to have so many fans and so many people wanting to see you succeed and see the project, see something that speaks to them. They want that because they haven't had that, and it's hard to not want to please them, not want to give them more, and not want to be that for them.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that caught my eye was just the lead's costume, which is very striking. And I mean, is there actual like serious Jamaican heritage influence there, or did it just so happen that color scheme worked? Not to downplay it, I'm sure you really thought this over when you were developing the guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the main character, he's Jamaican born and everything, and he is there is a lot of Jamaican heritage going to be incorporated to the book, because the main part to me, initially when I wrote the book, I wrote the entire saga out. I wrote the complete book one. And then initially in my mind, I was thinking like, 400, 500 pages should, cover the whole thing. And then I got probably about 80 pages into it. And like, I wasn't past the first major arc. And I'm just like, dude, this is going to be way more than I thought. Like it was pushing on almost 2,000 pages probably. So I was just I got to scale this down, and I'm trying to get this out soon. I'm not trying to take another year off on the project. So I scaled down a smaller sequence of events that would give readers a dip into the world of the Protector, give kind of a first finality battle to the Protector, like an introduction to him, his world, a reason why he would have the uniform. Basically, a lot of key plot points that would give the reader enough to want to be like, oh, I need book 2. So that's why it becoming the Protector Saga Part 1. It was only the first part of this long story that I was going to end up telling. And I wanted to just make sure I could get as much information, but not too much information, but enough there to where it would interest the reader. So I didn't get to go a lot into the Jamaican heritage part, but I wanted to have the reader understand that this is who he is, and this is why he's doing what he is, why the uniform is the way it is, and what the character is trying to portray. So as the story goes on, there'll be more and more, because there's a lot of heritage, a lot of history from the character that's going to be dwelt into, and it's going to be a big roller coaster ride of it.
Okay, so you're going kind of like how they did with Jaime Reyes when he became the Blue Beetle. Like, it's acknowledged, but it's not, oh, by the way, every other page.
Right. I wanted to make sure that there's a reason things are happening. I didn't want it to feel like things are just being forced down your throat, or like you can only relate to this character if you yourself were Jamaican. I wanted to make sure that this was a book for all audiences, and also you were getting information as well, but I didn't want it to read like a documentary, like you're just sitting back and learning information that you really didn't need to know. I wanted to make sure it was new, fresh, and stuff that people hadn't really heard of a lot, if you've heard that at all. So yeah, that's basically where that came from.
Okay. And clearly you've got a lot of plans set up. You've been talking about book 2. I've been following you on Instagram with that. And I got to say, the character that struck me aside from the Protector is this guy named Impact. Can you go into depth with that, or is that something we should wait for on book 2? Because just his image and everything, I was like, oh, what?
And yeah. So, all right, so Impact, he makes his debut in book 1. He is part of a secondary group known as the Cavalry that was with Liberty Force, and the first version of him is in book 1. So you get to see him in there, and he's fighting along his partner Nicholas. So they end up. He was actually. I don't want to go into spoilers for people who like book 1, but
yeah. Let's not do that. But I just
but he is in book 1. He is in there. Book 2 will focus more on him and kind of what he's been doing after everything current time, because he didn't make any appearance after the beginning of book 1. So book 2 will kind of focus on his life now, regarding everything that's left for him and where his path will take him. I'll give a little bit of spoiler I'll get into is his son will be in book 2, and their relationship will be explored, where he's been, how it's been living with, it'll kind of go into little flashes of his earlier life with what it's like for a kid growing up with a superhero dad, just his experience from that point. He also has a sister, and there'll be a little bit about her. So it's a lot of family dynamics that will be challenged in that book for him, and there'll be a lot more explored for that with them. So, and I'm kind of writing from that point of perspective because it was kind of the same way with my dad. So there's a little bit elements of how it is like that growing up with a parent who is who works a lot and kind of sometimes misses big events in the kid's life and stuff like that. So it was something that was cool to write. And I really liked the way it shaped up. And then another thing is also, like you said, when people saw his image, they wanted to know more about it. So when I was writing book 2, I was actually writing about a different character, and it was going to be the main focus of the book. But then I was just like, let my fans decide, who is the character they want to hear more about. And he won by a landslide, it wasn't even close. So I ended up having to scrap almost 50, 60 pages when I was currently writing and start a whole new part. But in the end, I liked it because the characters people wanted to hear more about were Liberty Force, and they wanted to hear more about Impact and stuff like that. So I was like, I wasn't planning on writing a Liberty Force solo book until after I finished this whole line, or maybe in between, after I got 5 or 6 books in. So I was trying to figure out a way
kind of thing.
Right, yeah. So I was trying to figure out a way I could give people more Liberty Force while still writing this book. And because of their choices, I found a way to do it, and I feel it's really natural, and it works for how the Protector Saga is written. So I feel like this was the best way to do it, and I'll be able to give my fans what they want.
Well, excellent to that. Also, the way you're talking about your writing, do you do freeform, or do you actually script it out, page 4, panel 2, low cut into the city, giving the artist something to do, or you start off, here's the story, how do I script it out?
Well, I actually do. I write as a novelist. I write because my book out right now is a novel, so I write in novel format. I have an editor who does all my scripting for me for my artist, so he does all that for me. and so he's a traditional comic book artist, and he's worked on some amazing projects himself. So I was really lucky to have him.
Yeah, from
And
the work I saw, I was impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's super good. So, as far as my writing process goes, what I do is I write out my entire major beats. So I have and I'll do probably 2 or 3 pages of like what needs to happen, of everything major that needs to happen in the entire story. And that'll probably end up making me about 20, 30 pages. And those 20, 30 pages will probably end up becoming like 200 or 300 pages when I actually get to write, because I don't do a lot of major dialogue. I do small dialogue, like stuff that I know needs to be said. And then the rest of it is like sequences and events and things that need to happen just to get from point A to point B to point C.
Right. You don't pull a Tolkien.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So for those that may not be into graphic literature, are you saying that they should expect a novelized version of your stories down the road?
Well, the novel right now, that's what's out on Amazon right now, and the comic is in development right now by my incredible artist Carlos right now.
Okay, very cool. That should be intriguing. That should be very intriguing, like compare and contrast.
Yeah, because when I initially thought I was just going to do a comic initially, but I just started thinking about it when I started doing the process. I was just like, not everybody reads comics, not everybody is into that form of literature, but I was like, a lot of people read books, and I was like, I can still do the comic as well as the book, and it actually worked out better for me, because when I finished the comic, I was thinking, I finished the book, I thought it was just going to be probably 3 or 4 issues, and when I gave it to my editor, he's like, there's no way you get this in 3 or 4 issues. I'm like, so what is it? He's just like, you probably got at least 12 here, if not like 13. So I basically finished like a year's worth of comic scripting, by the time I was done. So I was like, oh, that's fantastic. I just have to edit it now. But like, that was good. So it also gave me like a realm of like where I can stop and start for my entire year run of when it's done. And my artist, he wants to stay on the project as long as possible. Like, he's like, I want to keep this up. Like, I love the story and I love working with you, and your editor's amazing. So I was really lucky to get him and have him part of the project.
Very cool. Oh, well, aside from comic shops, like where would you also like to see your book down the road? Like, the final collected paperback graphic of the first big Protector Saga. Like, are we seeing it in Barnes & Noble down the way? Is it just going to be an Amazon exclusive, or?
I will market it anywhere possible that I can put it. Like, just right now, that's just where it is right now. By the time book 2 comes out, I'll probably be more into everything else, and getting it more stores and more locations as possible. So that'll be a great process. Especially the good thing is that Amazon does with like overseas, so I've had a lot of people that like friends in like England and Ireland, all over, just like trying to get the book, and they're able to get it. So it's really cool that I can see people from so far away reading the project and becoming fans of the project and everything like that. That's just been like an incredible experience.
Very cool indeed. Well, I'd like to say thank you for your time. Hopefully more people start checking out book 2, jump back to book 1. We'll get caught up on everything. And thank you for coming on again. Once again, folks, the man in the hot seat, if you would.
Thanks again. I appreciate coming on. Branson Grant here, creator of Protector Saga, and thank you all. You're all incredible. Thank you for the fandom. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So remember to like, share, and subscribe. Ring that bell to stay notified. And above all else, you got someone in mind for the hot seat, you let me know in the comments below. Until then, I'm Ian Torch. The hot seat's been put out.